Daryl, what'd you make of the idea that there was IG posts that were talking about whether or not Deshaun Watson is even bad, and then blaming Stafanski and blaming some parts of the Browns, and then Deshaun Watson was favoriting these posts?
Yeah. Listen, I kind of never really believed in the whole Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski marriage to begin with. And this was the frustrating thing with Kevin, or from Kevin's perspective, as far as the criticism of Kevin goes. He's not making all the decisions on his own. He's working with what he's been given with. He's working with what he's told to work with. So if he had autonomy, if I believed 100% that Kevin Stefanski had autonomy over this thing, I would be more than willing to, be hypercritical of him. But I don't. I don't think that he has autonomy over this. And guess what? I do think that's part of the problem here. And it's always been part of the problem. Too many cooks in the kitchen. And this is the first time in the Andrew Berry-Kevin Stefanski marriage where I haven't felt like they're both aligned. Because first of all, look at what Mike Tomlin said in Pittsburgh this week. I think that was his way of sticking up for Kevin Stefanski. And then also to look at how Kevin has answered questions in the last couple of weeks, and the way, I mean, he could have easily took up for the organization and all those type of things, and he just basically went with a no comment. And I think that the no comment is the comment.
It took over the Browns world yesterday for a brief amount of time. It's almost like a shooting star type story where it just takes over for a brief amount of time. We'll talk about it here today. I doubt we'll do much with it tomorrow on Afternoon Drive with myself and Nick. But it is one of those things you just kind of keep you just kind of remember. You just keep in the back of your brain, and you think that, oh wow, that did happen. Yesterday, a person on Instagram. Chad the Dumb Browns fan is what he's called, okay? Listen, it's not the greatest of handles, okay? When you admit on the forefront you're a dumb Browns fan,
well, yeah,
that's
you're allowing me to write the narrative when I see your title.
But he came out with this whole article, or not whole article, this whole video that, questioning if the Browns quarterbacks have been the problem or if it's Stefanski that's been the problem. And I think it's an interesting convo based off of how people perceive, for instance, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, if I'm Deshaun, every time Stefanski doesn't look like he knows what he's doing, and has the game like he did last week with Dylan Gabriel, for instance, where he drops back a guy making his second career start 58 times, yeah, alarms go off. You're like, wait, all right, maybe Stefanski doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe Stefanski did break me as a quarterback. I'm speaking of Deshaun here. But the problem and what set people off yesterday was Deshaun was out there favoriting and liking this post. And when you favorite and you like the post, typically it means that you're endorsing that post. I don't blame Deshaun. Listen, Deshaun's got to live with Deshaun, okay? If Deshaun wants to tell himself that the previous 3 years were not his fault and he takes no accountability, no responsibility for it, and it is all on the shoulders of Kevin Stefanski, we all say crazy things to live with ourselves, okay? If that's what he's got to do, then that's what he's got to do. I maintain he's too injured of a player to ever have any belief in him being a quarterback in the NFL ever again anyway. Even if you do think the talent was zapped like the Monstars by Kevin Stefanski, he's too broke, he's too injured of a player. But what do you make of Deshaun Watson basically blaming Kevin Stefanski for his problems?
Well, again, it's kind of like with Flacco when he left. It was all Kevin's fault, and it's all for me. It's first of all, you don't want to now the narrative is that he's blaming Kevin, and it'd be much you come off much better to the fans and to everybody, your teammates, where I had my piece in it too. Like, I didn't agree with some of the calls, but there were some good ones, and I had my hand in it too. And pass protection, lack of talent on the outside, all those things have played into this, and he's kind of now placing the blame, or at least that's the narrative that everybody has because of these things. Unfortunately, with Deshaun Watson, I think he would be loyal to a team where the things he had off the field, the Browns were willing to take him in because of his 2020 performance, and they were willing to work through him and help him, and they forced the coach to learn 2 different offenses and practice so he was ready to go. So I thought they did well by him, trying to get him ready to go. And then no matter whose fault it was, he played bad. He played bad. The coaching was not very good. They did a lot of things wrong, but he had his hand in it as well, and this makes it look like he didn't.
He did, but he's going to try to rewrite the narrative. Mm-hmm. And so this is what's going to happen here over the next couple years, as because I don't see an out for the Browns until March of 2027 from a financial standpoint. It's just too much cap money. It's just too much money. March of 2027 is seemingly like when he's going to be able to get out of it. I think he's going to put out all these videos. I think he's going to continue to showcase to everyone that he thinks he's healthy, he thinks he's 100%, and he thinks he can play the game. And then ultimately, I think he's going to just try to bury the Browns as often as he possibly can. And I think he's going to use Stafanski as part of that process. And Stafanski will take the high road because that's what Stafanski does. But I think this is Deshaun's next move. Trying to get people to be convinced that it wasn't his fault for why it didn't work out here, and it was Stefanski's fault, who now has been on quarterback 12 here, and it's not like he's had any of these quarterbacks really catch on. The narrative that you can build up for Deshaun, it exists more today than what it did, let's say, 2 months ago. And that crack is now open for him to go ahead and try to do this, and I think he's going to take it and run with it.
Well, as a football coach and as a football guy, I like a guy who loves this game, that's not a good end game for him, because people who know football, things go wrong in football. You're going to have bad years. You're going to have bad games. You don't want the narrative to be, when things go wrong, I'm going to blame. And that's what a lot lot of people who right now are seeing.
This is his only choice here. He's backed against the wall, because if he just admits that he sucks, then no one's going to take him on anyway, because they'll just think he's injured and can't play the game. Like, this is his only out. I'm not saying it's something I would do. I'm not saying it's something that is even respectable, because it's not. It's taking the coward's way out in many ways, putting the blame in other places. But I think the way he looks at this, like, his only real answer to starting for a different NFL team is if the entire NFL world thinks that Stafanski didn't know what he was doing.
Well, I just think that's a poor end game by him. You're right. That is the only route he has. But that route is for sure not going to work for him, because, once again, people who are football people, there's a lot of respect for Kevin Stefanski in the NFL. So there might be
but there's less today than there was, let's say, 2 months ago.
But in terms of
like when guys like Bruce Arians come out and speak the way that he did, like the sentiment, you can't go 4-19 in your last 23 and expect people to think that you know what you're doing.
And you're right. That's the dice that Deshaun Watson's going to roll. Is he's going to try to get somebody. All he needs is one. He doesn't need 31.
And all he needs is one of those desperate teams to really think to themselves, "Oh, maybe it was Stefanski. Maybe that was the answer." It's all it takes. And you know how desperate teams are in the NFL too. They'll convince themselves that actually is the truth, because they want a franchise quarterback so bad. The way that we convinced ourselves, or at least the Browns convinced themselves, that Deshaun would be perfectly fine with all the allegations and everything else to come off and still play football. And desperate people make desperate decisions.